Take a girl and a guy, and they fall madly in love and form a family. Sprinkle in some counseling degrees and a doctorate, a dream of transforming relationships as we know it. And 20 years later, we give you power couple Dr. Ray and Jean Ketkodian. And this is their podcast, Couples Synergy.
Hello, and welcome back again to another episode of Couple Synergy with Dr. Ray and Jean. Hi, I'm Dr. Ray.
And I'm Jean, and this is our podcast about love, marriage, and relationships.
Please check us out online at couplesynergy.com or on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and LinkedIn at Couple Synergy. And please subscribe to our podcast, leave us a review, or send us any suggestions on topics you'd like to hear more about. And now on a Couple Synergy, an in-depth look at love, marriage, and relationships, where we bring your experience helping thousands of couples transform their relationships for over 25 years.
Everyone says you should work on your relationship, but nobody teaches us how. So we've created this podcast to teach people what they can do to create the relationship they've always dreamed of
with the partner they fell in love with. On today's episode, we are talking about personal and spiritual development. We actually have a special guest on this live podcast as well. We have Angie that is joining us today. Hi, Angie. Thank you so much for being on our podcast.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be great. So we're going to talk about personal and spiritual development. And, you know, for all of those out there, if you want to just kind of chime in, or if you have a comment or question or anything like that, you just put that in. Whether you're on Facebook or whether you're on YouTube, we'll be able to see those comments and be able to answer any questions you have. But personal and spiritual development, why is it important? You know, why should we talk about it today?
Especially in terms of our relationships, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, when my sister went to marriage prep class, they said that, you know, the divorce rate with couples who pray together is like 97% less than couples who don't. And we kind of live in this world where we don't trust our religion so much, or we've fallen away from that in search of some deeper meaning. And spiritual development with a partner, I think, is the highest form of contact with God you can have on this planet. You know, to be in a room by yourself and to meditate and to feel good and to want good in the world is really easy.
To do it by yourself.
Do it with your partner or someone else, and all of a sudden, you know, we clash and we get into things. And so it's very difficult. And you can't have a good relationship if you don't have a good spiritual connection. And that is what spirituality is. Spirituality is simply how we relate and connect to everything that's alive, everything that's bigger than us, whatever it is. That is what spirit means. It's just how we bond and connect. So Angie and I have been co-hosting a group for the last 7-8 months.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We call it the Interior Journey.
8 months.
Yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Ange?
Yes. So it's called the Interior Journey, and I think we had went through a couple of names because we were having difficulty really coming up with something to describe it. An Interior Journey, I think, is pretty great because it is your own journey. Like you just said, Jean, right? You are trying to connect with something within yourself and outside of yourself. And in our group, we meet every month and we're all doing our own work, but we're coming back together to do a lot of learning. And so what we're teaching about specifically are all of the archetypes that impact our life, the archetypes that we connect to, the archetypes that are in our sacred contract. And if anyone out there hasn't learned about archetypes yet, or hasn't done any work with Jean or I or Dr. Ray, then it might sound like a foreign language. But once you get into it, I think it's pretty easy to understand. An archetype is sort of the idea of a set of characteristics that someone might have. And so we look at these archetypes and how they impact our life, and we start with our sacred contract, and then we go from there. And that's why it is so much work and takes us so long to go through, because we're not just looking at the big picture, we're looking at all the little pieces of the pie.
There's so often in the world we live in where we have this chronic low level stress. And stress is something in us that says, just pay a little bit of attention because maybe something is dangerous out there. And whether that is traffic or what is, Eric, yeah, it's for men and women, both men and women. Good question, Eric. Hi, how are you doing anyways, so this idea of being in stress and having that elevated fight or flight response makes us selfish. So selfishness says, I'm in danger, I want to protect the self. It's innate, it's built in us. All spiritual practices take that decompression of that fight or flight response so we can get into the parasympathetic nervous system, which is where we heal physically, which is where we develop empathy and compassion for others, especially our partner, and where we can open up to new ideas and inspirations that we can't do if we feel like we're in danger all the time. So this is why we are deciding to do this retreat, right? And so September 5th through 8th, we're going to put on a retreat at the Dow House in Estes Park, which is a beautiful location for that purpose. And so if you've ever been on any of our retreats, our couples retreats or our spiritual retreats before, we really pay attention to all the details. And you were able to find the Dow House. Do you want to talk about it a little bit?
Absolutely. So this was recent, and I thought it was important, Jean, that you said, let's not just try it online, and let's instead go, so we can get a feel of each place that we were looking at. And we saw a great variety of places in the Colorado area. We saw one in the city, one in the suburbs, and then one in the mountains. And then we've talked to lots of different people. And the one in the mountains was just the best one. That's the Dow House. So when I went there with you, I was really feeling the impact of the nature and the environment around me, because I was coming from a very low elevation, and that is up in the mountains. There's a little bit of a winding road that takes you there. And when you're up there, you really feel the wind. And we're in between two mountains. And it's a beautiful balance of feminine and masculine energy. And the person who works at the Dow House, who showed us around and really gave us a bit of the experience that we want to give others, told us all of the rich sort of history of the place and all sorts of kinds of retreats and special events and ceremonies that go on there. And so this is a beautiful place. It's a great lodge. There are some separate cabins. There is also a stable with horses. So that is a great opportunity that our guests have as well. And inside, people find all the space they need to really connect and do all these wonderful activities we're planning. They also have thought of all of us who are coming from a different environment and who will be impacted, like myself, with the altitude. So they have an oxygen bar as well. We have all sorts of things planned that are inside, for comfort, but also that are outside, because we're hopeful that the weather will work out very nicely and we'll be able to take in this beautiful scenery all around us, 360 views, whether you're in your room or you're outside, you're sitting at the bonfire, we're meditating, or doing a gong bath. I mean, the possibilities are endless. And my words don't do it justice, right? Whoever is joining us will really get to feel that when we're there.
Yeah, I forgot about the horses that you can, that'll be part of the options on the weekend, is to take a horseback ride through the mountains, which is so beautiful. There's a concept of the frog in boiling water. Is that how you start it? The frog gets in the water before it's boiling.
Frog in a pot of water.
Frog in a pot of water.
Right? Yeah. So if you put a frog in a pot of water and then turn on the heat, well, you first start with frog in the boiling water. So if you have a pot of boiling water and you throw a frog in, it's going to jump out, right, to save itself.
It's going to feel that contrast.
It's going to feel the contrast and change. If you put them in a pot and then turn on the heat, they're eventually going to boil themselves to death because they don't feel the change in that heat over time. And, I think you're trying to segue this to, why should anybody work on, their personal spiritual development? What is the benefit? I mean,
Yeah.
the title of this podcast today is, what is the benefit of it? I think a lot of people out there, one, they can't define what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Spiritual development, what does that mean? What does personal development mean? Some people think, well, I got to go and work out, maybe, maybe I gotta learn some things, that's personal development. But when it comes to that inner journey, right, that interior journey that you guys are talking about, this goes beyond just survival, right?
Yep.
This is about actually connecting to a part of yourself that we seek out, we search our entire lives for.
Yeah, if you've ever taken a walk in a cemetery, it never says this person worked X amount of hours or made this much money. It really says they were loved. They were beloved, father, mother, wife, daughter, whatever connections they had. What is the point of being here? And, we're so indoctrinated as little children to think, oh, I've got to survive in this world. So I have to go to school and I got to get a good job and I got to be able to protect and provide for myself, which is true. But this is beyond that. This is beyond just that mundane survival. And so like the frog in the pot of water, getting out of your environment where you're slowly boiling and you don't really know it. You're just kind of being fried. You're going into this different environment where instantly you are looking at things that are much closer to a soul level. Like Angie was saying, those mountains and the trees and the wind and the beauty of it all, it helps get us in that right framework, as well as not being disturbed. We have so much calling our attention in our regular lives, whether it's, family members who need us or an email or a text or whatever it is that is vying for our attention all the time. This gives you an opportunity to give attention to the thing that matters most. And that's that interior place so that you can become who you really want to be in this world and offer that back out. And so when you choose to take time to spend on yourself, to accept and love yourself, and to go through a process of letting go of things that, maybe are blocking you and they're in the way, and you want to elevate yourself to a different place, everyone in your world will benefit from that.
Yeah. And, we've talked about in past podcasts about how, the word synergy is the whole is greater than the sum of its parts,
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not working on your part, you're not working on your individual self, connecting with who you are and why you're here on this planet and what you bring to humanity, how are you going to show up in a relationship? There's absolutely no way you're going to know your part to give and contribute to connect with your partner at. And it's just impossible. It is absolutely impossible. Unfortunately, in today's day and age, we have people walking around like zombies because, we're just trying to get to the next distraction.
Yeah. So overwhelmed with life, with kids and work and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And, we feel the difference coming from Chicago to Colorado. We feel that change, in being in traffic and being surrounded by a lot of, people, and that climbing that ladder, the wagon wheel. I don't know. I'm just going off here on all these different analogies. I don't know. But, coming here, you just feel that connection with your environment, and it is just such a spiritual experience.
And when you think about being stressed, you don't think about being kind. You're so knee-jerk reaction. You're so in that self-preservation place that you can't open your heart and you can't express who you really are from that depth of a place if you're just trying to swat away what you think's potential threats, which is typically going to be directed at our partner for the most part, I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have that experience, Ange?
Absolutely. And, when we're thinking of how do people define spiritual development, well, I think one of the first places is I want to be a better version of myself, right? and you think about self-help books, or when people do want to get into therapy, or take a certain class and learn a certain skill, that's a great starting point, right? I want to be a better version of myself, but that isn't detailed, right? And then my question would be, well, what are the goals? What would be different, right? What would you add, or what would you subtract from your current life right now? And if we keep pulling back, I think we get something that isn't easy to touch, right? It's not about what we have in the house, or outside of it. Instead, I think some people come up with something like, I want to be at peace with the choices I make. Right. And that there's no judgment on that, right? There's not a judgment like, I want to make the right choices, because who knows what that is, right? Or I don't want to make the wrong ones. And so if we can find a place like, I want to be at peace with the choices I make, well, then I would hope that translates and impacts our relationships, the romantic ones, and then with the people that we work with, right? With the people that we see often or communicate with often. And so that's what I have on my mind with this retreat, right? How can I get some quiet time and do a lot of work on myself to just progress in that area of my life?
Yeah, so often we hear people say that they can't meditate.
Mm-hmm.
I try and it doesn't work. It doesn't work for me. I'm not good at it. And what they fail to understand is that there is only one goal of meditation, and that goal is to be an observer of the self. So if you try to meditate and you realize your mind is a little crazy, you're meditating. And just like anything else, if you said, oh, I want to run a marathon, I'm going to go out and try to run, and you can get a couple blocks and you're like, oh, I'm terrible at this. Yeah, because, you have to build up. You have to train your body to be able to sustain things, right? And that's one of the benefits of doing a weekend retreat, is you get a lot of opportunity without distraction. I don't know if you guys have animals or not, but if I try to meditate and my animals are around, oh, they'll lick my face, and it's very, very difficult. So to have a place, without distraction, to really get into that good zone and get the feel good experience of meditating, where things just sort of happen, where you're the healing or the shift in your thinking or the releasing of the tension in your body, all the things that lead to us living as opposed to slowly dying on this planet, is what you can experience. And it isn't something that you're not good at. It's just something you don't have practice with.
Eric just actually asked a question. It's actually a very large question, multiple questions, but he just said, I just got back with my girlfriend and I have truly been working on myself and have made great change. How can I bring us together more spiritually? How can we connect more deeper? If that makes sense. I guess what I'm asking is, how can I bring myself to her level on a spiritual level, but do it together? You don't have to apologize, Eric. This is a beautiful question. And, it is something that I think all of the couples that come and start working with us, they eventually ask, these questions. Like, how can we connect at a spiritual level? Because that's ultimately, that soul to soul connection that all couples really aspire to connect at.
And, I wish this wasn't, I'm going to say true. Maybe it's not true, but it's certainly been our experience that the quickest way to really start working on your spirituality is pain. Like, you guys broke up and, then you're like, oh crap. Well, the alternative is
pain and pleasure.
I don't have to be in pain if I'm not in a relationship, but I do have to deal with pain of loneliness and heartache and all the other stuff that you don't have if you're not in a relationship. And so that pain is really important for us. It helps us drive ourselves to do the difficult work, to be connected, because Eric Fromm says the number one predicament of pain of being in this body on this planet is the separation. And the only way to really resolve that is for another person to know you. And so, knowing yourself and exploring those things together as a couple is a great way to be in life, because then you're not focused on fixing a problem, you're focusing on potential growth. And that's such a great feeling, that when we're in that place of creating and growing together and going deeper into that soul level, then we really can be seen, and then we can really extend that vulnerability and that empathy to our partner and see them as well.
Yeah, I think that Eric's asking the right questions,
Mhm.
right? How can we connect at that same spiritual level? And from that place, that's where a couple can start to explore that and challenge each other and, try to understand each other at that soul to soul level. So it's that asking that question that sets you on that right path there, Eric. So congratulations on that.
Yeah, if love were just a feeling, we wouldn't need to make vows. We wouldn't have to make a commitment to being in it with our person. And the commitments all sound the same. I'm going to be in here whether it sucks or whether it's great. I'm not leaving, and I'm going to stick with it. And that forging of what we call the couple personality, that other thing that gets created, and it's absolutely intangible, like Angie was saying. And I was thinking when you were talking, Angie, that like everything you need, you're going to bring with you, because it's all inside you. It doesn't even matter if you have a change of clothes. If you're there, you have everything that you don't have to go look for it in a drawer somewhere or forget to pack it. It's all within us. And, like Eric was saying, how do I do this? That's the great question. And I think that is the times that we live in, that question, I think, used to be answered by religions or other things that people would kind of go through that kind of left them sort of flat.
Yeah.
And this is that, like digging in deep and finding that seed of who you really are and what you really are here to do, and just start to water and nurture and feed that and grow and become.
Yeah, I like the Buddhist meditation of the question, who am I? Right. So the Buddhist monks would sit there and meditate on that question, who am I, who am I, who am I, and come up with a different answer each time. And if you've ever tried to do that, you first start with all of the labels that we give ourselves, right? Father, husband, son, all these labels. And then once you get rid of all the labels, now what? How do you define yourself that way? And that's really where you start to really question yourself, and you take that interior journey to understand who you are at that soul level. Once you start asking that question, then, and your partner's doing that, then you can start understanding each other as well.
Yeah, once you see it, you can't unsee it. Has that been your experience, Ange?
Absolutely. And what I feel, what I really want to say is I want to share something from one of, part of my journey. But before I do that, I would like you to please explain to everyone. I know you've explained on the podcast a lot, but just a reminder for now and any new listeners, what a 40-day practice is.
Okay. Yeah. So a 40-day practice is something that we created a long time ago, maybe 20 some years ago.
Almost 20 years. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe you want to talk about the premise of it.
If you know any of our work, we're really big learners, and we kind of grab work from other people and from what's been in the world. And a 40-day practice is nothing new, right? Jesus went into the desert for 40 days and 40 nights, and Noah was on the ark. And that 40 days is very symbolic, because it takes about 21 days to regenerate half of our cells. And so if you do a 40-day practice, which means every day for 40 days, you're going to do something, some type of discipline. And by the end of that 40 days, more than half of you has never had your previous experiences, whether that was something that was painful or something that you wish you could change, or you beat yourself up about. And so the beautiful thing about a discipline or 40-day practice is you do whether you feel like it or not. So you're not letting these emotions run your life like we tend to do. You're saying every day, and I like to use the analogy of your practice is jumping up and down 3 times at 3 o'clock every day. So I don't know if there's great benefit in jumping up and down every day for 3 times. But at 3 o'clock, you're in your body, you're present, you're aware of how you feel. So some days you're like, great, I'm looking forward to jumping up and down 3 times. Other days you might be like, this sucks, I don't want to do it, but you do it anyway. And what happens is you build resilience and tolerance, and your life has more form and shape because you're choosing something out there that you want to head towards, as opposed to just, oh, the wind's blowing me this way today or that way tomorrow, or, you know, kind of how we go through life, just letting things push us around. You're taking control, which builds muscle, and builds emotional muscle and mental muscle and spiritual muscle. So those are the 40-day practices that we've been doing. That what our 40-day practice looks like is 40 days of meditation, some yoga flow practice, and a chant that we do every day for 40 days.
And building in a discipline as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know, so maybe
sort of
it's
like Lent
to work out, you know,
Yeah,
over
you
those
do
40
something.
days, or whether it's to change your diet over those 40 days. But,
Mhm.
you know, those spiritual practices that we have done over the years, you know, it's kind of like a reset button. You know, it just kind of resets you to, you know, what's truly important in life. It's not just to get up every day and work and then go to bed and do the same thing over and over again.
And then the other thing, thank you for describing them. The other thing with the 40-day practice is it would be great to also choose to stop doing something that's not, maybe that's not propelling you towards those goals.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah,
So some
distraction.
some people say something that's that they can touch, meaning like I'm gonna stop drinking alcohol, right? Or I'm going to, drink on these days, so I'm not drinking more days, or something, something else. Another thing that I don't think is very tangible is something like, every time I have an anxious thought, I'm going to remind myself that I'm safe, right? Or I'm going to say a chant, or I'm going to light a candle, or do something to replace that thing that doesn't feel very good, that we want to try to stop doing. Thank you for setting it up, because I want to say, after I did 40-day practices, and we were doing one, this was a virtual one because it was, really in the heat of the pandemic. So we were all meeting regularly, everyone in a different place, sort of stuck at home. And as we were going through the practice, we had to write a letter. And the theme of the letter was forgiveness. And so once we met after writing, everyone was sharing a little bit about, what they wrote about, right? Let's say who they forgave. And I remember, some people sharing like, I forgave this person or this set of people in my life, for this period of events. And to me, that was surprising at the time, because my letter was only forgiving myself. I didn't even have the thought of forgiving anyone else. Although I was able to remember that during years of 40-day practices beforehand, I thought of other people in my life, right? And I worked through and I forgave them. So then I got to the point where it was so easy to not write a letter about forgiving anyone. And I'd like to think because I already did. But it took time to get there, right? If I didn't do all of that work beforehand, then of course it wouldn't be so easy to say that. I'd be working on forgiving someone, right? Or forgiving myself with probably a lot of discomfort, and maybe resentment for others. And so those kind of things with spiritual development, I think, sneak up on you. And it's only once you're like doing things, right, that you can become more aware and hopefully happily surprised with all the growth that you've done.
You're not giving away anything that you're going to be doing at the retreat, like writing a letter of forgiveness, are you?
Who knows?
Who
I don't
knows?
know.
Maybe, right?
But
And if you could play the trailer if you have that ready.
It's one thing to say it, right? For me to say, I could lay out all the activities we're going to do. We could talk about our itinerary right now, but that wouldn't be the same thing as experiencing it.
Oh no,
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
Yeah, for those that might be interested in attending the retreat, maybe you should tell them the date and
It's going to be September 5th through 8th. And I just want to say something really quick about what Angie was talking about forgiveness. It is so easy for us to point the finger at our partner to find out what we think their flaws are. And it's so difficult when we are being the ones that are being hurtful and we can't see it.
yeah.
And so that forgiveness piece, especially in an intimate relationship, it's such a big thing, especially when you realize that maybe there's some things you need forgiveness for as well.
Mm,
So anyways, back to the retreat, September 5th through 8th. It's in Estes Park.
yeah. Which is a very beautiful place.
Yep. It's about an hour and a half from the Denver airport.
So are you guys
Is this playing right now?
Yeah. But for our audio podcast people, you want to maybe talk a little bit about it?
Well, you can go to YouTube and you can look for the video and the benefits of doing a spiritual retreat. $9,200 feet of elevation is where the Dow House is, Estes Park. Beautiful lodge with 28 rooms. These are the classes we offer on the Tree of Life and numerology, meditation, Qigong, Tai Chi, chakra system. Just to name a few.
And in regards to Eric's question about whether this is only for women or whether it's open to men and women,
Yep,
it
it's
is
open to everybody.
open to everybody.
And there is single occupancy rates for the rooms or double occupancy rates. So there's rooms with 2 queen beds or rooms with 1 king bed if you're a partner, if you're a couple. Every room has a balcony with a beautiful view.
And fresh, clean mountain air.
And registration will open on June 19th. And we're very limited in space. There's 28 rooms. That's what we can accommodate. Very excited.
Very cool. All right. Well, if you are interested in joining us on this retreat, how should they contact? What's the best way?
Well,
we're
I would
looking
say
for?
it's not open to all. I wouldn't want little kids there.
Oh, for sure. This is
Yeah.
open to adults.
So I would
Right.
say if you have a mature teenager or older, it's open to any individual people or couples that just want to dive in and figure some things out about themselves.
Great. So probably the best bet. Oh, Ange, I think you got our link on there. Oh, great. Awesome. Well, thank you very much.
And-
That's perfect.
And so people can learn a little bit more there. But the podcast today was a place to learn a lot. And I think they should also, if they haven't already, go back and listen to some of your other podcasts about spiritual development. There was at least one in the beginning. Maybe it was titled Spiritual Development.
Yep.
And then on June 19th, that's when, if they visit this link or our website in general, they'll be able to register.
Great. Awesome. This is, this is really some great work. A lot of people think that relationships should be easy and they should just click. And that is not true. That is a falsity, right? Relationships are hard work and they're designed to be that way. We're not designed to just kind of cruise through life and have everything handed to us and be happy all the time. There's a reason why we have sadness. There's a reason why we have disappointment. We have these feelings, these emotions, because they serve a purpose for us, right? It helps us strive for more. Strive for more individually within ourselves to become something better, but also to strive together as a couple, to become better as a couple, to connect at a deeper level. And that journey and that work is always ongoing, always.
It's a beautiful opportunity that we're really excited to share with everyone.
Yes. And, when we podcasted the author of The Peaceful Warrior and Dan Millman, and we're going to be airing that episode pretty soon. We talk all about spiritual development, on that podcast as well. So this is kind of, I guess, really the month of spiritual development here that we're focusing on, right?
One thing I'd like to say, and we hear this a lot, that we're like kind of more normal people in this space than, really foo-foo or out there. And I think, Ray, you really help make it really great for men to be able to hold that space as well, so that it's not, you know what I mean.
Yes, absolutely. And Eric had a follow-up question here. If my girlfriend and I can't make this event, is this a place we can go to without an event? I'm not sure.
It
The
is.
Dow,
Yep.
the Dow
Yep,
place.
absolutely.
There's plenty of visitors. There's there are. It is an event space, so there's many people celebrating something, but also there's plenty of rooms. Depending on the time, right, of the season, that would be available for you to go. And people who go and just stay in one room and they're not part of an event, they are usually very busy because they're doing a lot of sightseeing, or horseback riding. They usually get up and they leave for the day, and then they come back and rest later on.
Awesome. Well, that's good to know. That is good to know. Well, anything else on personal and spiritual development?
Just do it.
Just do it.
And, I would just want to add one thing. If we're talking about growing in general, there is somebody, I don't know who said it, but there's a quote that I really enjoy, and it goes something like, "We already are the best version of ourselves, just in process." And so if you ever find it difficult to think about what does that look like for you, who do you really want to be? Well, there is an answer. And Jean, like you said, you already have everything you need for it. Maybe what you don't have is all the space and the quiet time and the mountain air, et cetera, right? To sort of figure that out on your own. But I think that's a very hopeful quote.
Yeah. And, I always forget to mention that, the workshop that we do, it's a monthly workshop. It's a year-long journey that you start with an intention, and it's based on Carolyn Mace's work, going from your fate, which is what you have to go through in this life, and turning that into your destiny, what you choose to go through in life. And if you want more information about that, email us at contact@couplesynergy.com, and we'll send you a link to the video, the discovery video that kind of explains what that process is. And we're going to be starting a new group. We're in month 7 right now with the current group that we have doing it.
And this is a virtual group.
This is a virtual group, so
Right.
you can do it from wherever you are. We meet once a month for an hour, and then during the month, there's some lessons along the way that you participate in. So if you want more information about that, go ahead and email us.
Yeah, if you want more information about the retreat or about the monthly group, you can email us at contact@couplesynergy.com. If you go on Facebook or you go on our YouTube channel, Angie has actually posted the link for registering for the retreat in Colorado. So be sure to check that out.
Yeah, we hope to see y'all there.
Absolutely. Well, we want to thank you all for joining us today on Couple Synergy. Our passion is in helping couples and people have happy and healthy relationships. And this podcast gives us a fun way of bringing our knowledge and expertise to you, our listeners. For all of you listening, please let us know how you enjoy the show. If you have any questions, comments, or topic suggestions, please email us at contact@couplesynergy.com. For more information about Couple Synergy and our programs such as Relationship 101, the home study course, the next Couples Relationship Enhancement Weekend, and our premier couples coaching program called Couple to Couple, look us up online at couplesynergy.com.
And if you know someone who could benefit from this episode, please download it and share it. And thank you for listening.
Until next time, synergize your life and synergize your love.
You have been listening to Couple Synergy with Dr. Ray and Jean Ketkodian. Couple Synergy was recorded, edited, and produced by Dr. Ray and Jean Ketkodian. Voiceover and music entitled Breathe and Let Go was recorded and composed by Gina Gonzalez.